and it is my sincere pleasure to welcome you all to the 2006 Advanced Course in Engineering on Cybersecurity graduation ceremony. We are here to recognize the achievements of nearly 35 students that have given 10 weeks of their summer to learn about cybersecurity and to develop their leadership skills. At this time, I'd like to request that you please silence your cell phones and pagers for the remainder of the ceremony. In just a moment, I will ask you to please rise for the entrance of the head table. I would then ask that you please remain standing for the posting of the colors and then the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the head table. The members of the head table are, in no particular order here, Congressman Sherwood Bullard, Chairman of the U.S. House Science Committee, Major James Brown of the City of Rome and his wife, Mrs. Brown, Dr. Donald W. Hansen, SES, Director of the Air Force Research Laboratory Information Directorate, his wife, Mrs. Hansen, Colonel Dan Ragsdale, Vice Dean of Education, U.S. Military Academy, Dr. Kamal Dubur, Director of the ACE, and Mrs. Dubur, and finally, Officer Candidate Christopher Oppenau, United States Navy and ACE Valedictorian. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the entrance of the colors. At this time, Cadet Rochelle Rose will now recognize those individuals who are unable to be with us this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the center of our gathering. You may have noticed the table before you. It is filled with symbolism. I will explain. The table is set for our prisoners of war and those missing in action from all wars. They are not with us today. Their chairs are empty, but saved for their hope return. Let us remember their absence. Let us remember the United States Air Force, honored by Cadet Rodriguez. Let us remember the United States Army, honored by Cadet Cross. Let us remember the United States Navy, honored by Midshipman Faison. Let us remember the men and women prisoners of war from all branches of the service that are too often forgotten. Let us remember them. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms, so that their children could remain free. Remember. The lone candle symbolizes the frailty of prisoners alone, trying to stand up against his oppressors. Remember. The black ribbon on the candle reminds us of those who will not be coming home. Remember. The single red rose reminds us of the loved ones and families of our comrades in arms who keep the faith and await their return. Remember. I slice a lemon as on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter fate. If we do not bring them home, remember. There is salt on the plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait and remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us tonight. Maybe tomorrow, if we remember. to the flower base that is worn by thousands who await their return. Remember, as we look upon this empty table, do not remember ghosts from the past. Remember our comrades. Remember those whom we depended on in battle. They depend on us to bring them home. They will remember what we do. Please honor and remember them.
At this time, Cadet Brian York will now give us the invocation.
Please bow your heads with me and pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we just come before you tonight, and we thank you that we could all celebrate together today. Lord, we thank you that you have made this possible. Father, we lift up all the friendships we've formed and the relationships and the fun that we've had through these 2.5 months here in Rome, New York, Father. We ask that you would just be with us tonight, be with, that we would feel your presence, Lord God. Lord, I ask that you would just prepare us to go in different directions. And we thank you for the faithfulness and the provision that you've shown us throughout this program, Lord. We also thank you for the knowledge and the experience that we've gained, that this will equip us to go into the future, Lord. And we thank you for those who have come before us that have made an event like this possible, a program like this able. Give us the courage to fight this fight as they did. Lord, I ask that you would bless this food that we are about to partake in, that it will be nourishing our bodies. We pray these in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Once again, welcome to the ACE graduation ceremony. I want to thank you all for attending. I think I speak on behalf of my classmates in saying that it has been a long 10 weeks, but we've learned a great deal and we have thoroughly enjoyed our experiences here. It is a deep privilege and an honor to have you all with us here at the culmination of our hard work. And at this time, I would like to recognize several more distinguished guests with us this evening, and I would ask that you please rise as I recognize you so that we can all see you. Dr. John Bay, Chief Scientist of the Air Force Research Laboratory Information Directorate. Colonel Robert McHale, Commander of the Rome Research Site and Deputy Director of the Air Force Research Laboratory Information Directorate. Colonel Rich Smith, Commander, Air Force ROTC Detachment 535 at Syracuse University, and his wife, Mrs. Smith. Colonel Christopher O'Hara, Commander of Air Force ROTC Detachment 550 at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Colonel Bill Gray, United States Air Force retired, Chairman of the ACE Advisory Board, and his wife, Mrs. Gray. Colonel Fred Wieners, United States Air Force retired Director of Military Instruction for the ACE program. Tim Clancy, Director of Projects for the U.S. House Committee of Science and Technology. Mr. Robert Blakely, Vice President for Research and Technology Services, ITT Advanced Engineering and Sciences. And finally, Dr. Shu-Kai Chin, Dean of Engineering at Syracuse University. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please enjoy your meal. I'd like to talk for a few brief moments on our experiences in the ACE program. The Advanced Course in Engineering Cybersecurity Bootcamp lasts for 10 weeks in the summer. During the course of these 10 weeks, we learn various aspects about cybersecurity and the principles of leadership. Our typical weekly schedule involves an 8-hour lecture on Monday on various course topics, an internship Tuesday through Thursday, and an 8-mile run at 7 o'clock in the morning every Friday, as well as a lecture based on leadership principles. In addition, we are required to attend military physical training sessions at least twice a week and participate in an additional physical fitness activity of our choice. We also expect to maintain a high standard of professionalism and officership at all times. Our weekends are free, however, it is mostly spent on completing our reports, which are due on Monday. It's not all non-stop work, however. We have access to the pool at Rome Free Academy and everything else that the city of Rome has to offer. The program also includes trips to Gettysburg, West Point, and New York City. We have also had the opportunity to hike Owl's Head Mountain and also swim at the yacht club, courtesy of Colonel Wieners. Thank you very much, sir. We entered this program as 35 nearly complete strangers. Since then, we have completed challenge courses, solved complex problems that large corporations face, and visited historical sites together. We've all grown close over the last 10 weeks, and friendships have been formed that will not soon be broken. We are continually told that we are the future leadership of this nation, and based on my experiences this summer, I have no doubt that the country will be in good hands. ACE 2006, you truly are the finest group of people that I have ever known. We've come a long way from where we were 10 weeks ago. We've accomplished many things, and we have been there for each other through the good times and the tough times. I believe that if we can run 8 miles every Friday morning for 10 weeks straight, I know that we'll all be successful in whatever comes our way. I will never forget our experiences this summer, and I wish you all well in whatever life has in store for you. Thank you for a wonderful summer, and please stay in touch. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our host, Dr. Donald Hanson, SES, Director of the Air Force Research Laboratory Information Directorate, for some welcoming remarks.
Well, welcome to all of you folks from Rome, New York, Central New York area. We've had some of the greatest weather of the summer, actually, the past couple days, and I hope you all had a chance to enjoy that. It's my great pleasure to introduce somebody who, without him, this course would not be in existence. Without his vision, without his understanding of how important education young folks like you is, we just wouldn't have this course. Without his wonderful support, we wouldn't have some of the great facilities we have at the Air Force Research Lab here in Rome, New York. I'm very proud to introduce our Congressman Bowler.
Thank you very much. Let me tell you how important this program is to me. First of all, I'm not running for re-election. I've decided to stop. And So I can do whatever I damn well please. Whenever I want to. I don't have to go out and glad hand or ask for anything. That's number one. Number two, my beloved New York Yankees are playing tonight as we sit here. And more often than not, when the Yankees are playing, I'm glued to at least the radio if I have access, or the TV, but I'm not. I'm here. I'm here because this is a very special program. This is where I want to be. So I've got a few remarks I'm going to share with you. First of all, Don, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for what you and all the people at the Air Force Research Lab do day in and day out. Not only to add to our national security guarantees as much as humanly possible, but to make us all proud. I salute you and all the people at the Air Force Research Lab. And as I look out in the audience, I get very excited because you are the best in the place. I'm talking now about, don't everybody else pop up, I'm talking about the A students. The best and the brightest, and that's what we need more than anything to guarantee our future. Today, World Lab is a wellspring of innovation, a research leader across the fields of computer and information science and engineering. This leading edge work is being done not on a large military installation, which most people are very familiar with, but it is part of a business and technology park. It's a business and technology park, not just a name. You got them all over the country. They call themselves Business and Technology Park. And you look at it and you wonder, where's the business? And where's the technology? In Rome, we have both. In the linchpin of the whole thing, the glue that sort of holds it all together is the Air Force Research Lab as the host organization for the great ACE program. This rich confluence of expertise and knowledge is one of the many reasons why ACE has been such a success. So with that, let me turn to the graduates. That's the most important part of any commencement ceremony, the graduates. It's an honor for me to be here with you today to celebrate your graduation from a rigorous, and you've heard it, a rigorous and no doubt exhausting program. 8 miles you run? Good God, I couldn't walk 8 miles. I am so pleased and proud to have been one of the early supporters of the ACE program, and I've supported it over the years. Seeing all of you here this evening, the best the nation has to offer, only convinces me that I had a lot of wisdom when I signed on early and saw the great potential for this program. So I'm going to pat myself on the back, but it is just absolutely wonderful. We celebrate this evening just a few miles from the internet of its time, the Erie Canal. Think about that. It started right here in Rome, New York, July 4th, 1817. That was the internet of that day. Now, the internet of today is opening up wide vistas for all to see. Incidentally, one of those early canal workers was a young axeman from here in Rome. His name was John B. Jarvis, who used his Jervis, right? Tim Clancy, as he wrote it. Tim Clancy, incidentally, was in the as my project director on the science committee, and he is that, but he wears 2 hats. He's also my chief of staff in my personal office, and he had the good judgment to be born right here in Rome, New York. Jim, welcome home. These are so wonderful words, but I'm going to not read this speech. I'm going to talk to you about some things that are very important. I've given a lot of commencement addresses over the years, and you might suspect every college needs a commencement speaker. And over the years, I think I was the traditional commencement speaker, and which means probably not very good, and probably not long remembered for what I said. Because I found over the years that the commencement or graduation addresses usually are about the speaker. The speaker tells you what he or she wants to tell you. Pet theory about something. Read the papers in May of every year, graduation years. All these big shots speak at all these campuses, and they give out their pet theories. None of it is relevant to the audience. So this year I said, and I've got a great speechwriter, and I've got a great team, but one guy in particular, he can bedazzle you with what he writes for me, and I can convince you that those are my words, because we've been together for 24 years, and we sort of are married in thought and in action. So he writes the greatest of speeches. But this year I said, no, I'm going to write my own this year. I'm not going to use anything, and I'm going to take a different approach. So, in essence, here's what I did at commencements this year on the college campuses. I talked to the graduates. I gave them something that I hope will be important to them. And then I sort of waited for the reaction. And I had more compliments about this year's approach than I've ever had before. Because here's what I did, and here's what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to give you an assignment. Now that's what you need, one more assignment, right? But two things I advise them to do. Go to your nearest Barnes & Noble or wherever you buy books, and buy 2 books and read them, and learn from them. And here are the 2 books. The World is Flat by John Friedman. That's a must-read for every thinking person in this country. Now, I don't get a commission, but that is a must-read. And the second book was A Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin, and about Lincoln and his cabinet during the darkest hour of our young nation's history. What does the world is flat tell people? Tells the people that we're in the 21st century. Some people don't get it, don't understand it. They still want to do things the old way instead of doing things the new way. They don't realize that the competition in Rome, New York is not from neighboring Utica or neighboring Pennsylvania, but it may be some faraway spot like Bangalore over in India. That's the competition of today. And just recently I completed a trip to India with the Speaker of the House. The Speaker said he was going to visit India and Vietnam, some official visits, fact-finding. Would I accompany him? I said, sure. The Speaker asked you to go to a trip like that? You go. And it was a delightful experience. But here's what I found. India, a nation of 1.1 billion people, and still counting. Now, we've all heard, as a result of Tom Friedman's The World is Flat, as a result of news reports, about all the competition around the globe, but particularly from India, places like Bangalore, where jobs, American jobs, used to be held by Americans, are being outsourced. This great pocket of prosperity. And they're sprinkled throughout India. But I'll tell you what else I also saw. I also saw and learned about 600 million people living on less than $2 a day. You know, I came to the conclusion after that experience that there is no way we in the United States of America can ever outsweat them or outwork them. What do we have to do? We have to outthink them. We've got to get our creative juices flowing. We've got to make sure that we invest in developing the intellectual capital that we need for the future. Which brings me to this program here this evening. That's exactly what we're doing with ACE. We're recognizing that in the overall picture, the macro picture, we're not the biggest player. India, China's got almost a couple billion people, and they haven't counted them all. We have to come to terms with the new reality of the 21st century. We've got to do a better job of educating our young people, starting at the very earliest level. And I'm talking about Head Start, which is preschool. And then when they get to elementary and secondary education, we've got to do a better job in the science and math disciplines particularly, and that's what all the graduates here are doing. You know why? Because in international competitions, we're so used to being number one. We think it's always going to be that way. We used to be so far ahead of the competition that when we looked over our shoulder, number 2, 3, and 4, you needed binoculars to see them. Now we can't take a nanosecond to look over our shoulder because they're breathing down our necks. And in international competition, in the science and math disciplines, here's the stark reality we have to face. In the 4th grade, our youngsters, and this great superpower, are about on average with their counterparts in places like India and Korea and Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom. By the 8th grade, we fall slightly behind them by the 12th grade in the science and math disciplines. We are down near the bottom of the list when we're compared to other developed nations, first world nations. That ain't good enough. That's not going to allow us to sustain our number 1 position. I like being number 1. I want to stay number 1. But we're not going to stay number 1 unless we do things smarter and better. And one of the good things we're doing is investing in this ACE program, taking the best and the brightest from all over these United States, bringing them here to Rome, New York, exposing them to the Air Force Research Lab Information Director under the tutelage of Dr. K. What a great guy he is. And allowing you to experience an enrichment of your educational background and a further development of your mind and your body. So that when you go forward from this point, you are going to make major contributions to our society. And I don't know where it's going to come. It may be in the service of the country, in the military. It may be in the private sector, but it's going to come. Because I have before me a whole group of people that are just absolutely outstanding and are proving by performance that they have something special to offer. And as I think about the ACE program, I think about its infancy. You know, when we're just a bunch of us talking about it and wondering how we're going to do it and trying to convince the Air Force, boy, this is a great concept, it can work, you should do something constructive about it, put it in the budget. Never did. So I'm an experienced congressman in Washington, D.C. I've been around, I know how the system works. I really worked hard to get what I called add-ons to the budget. Now, the president develops the budget with the advice of all his various cabinets like DOD, and then they send the budget to Capitol Hill to try to get something added to that budget, even when it involves, in addition to the Department of Defense, which deals with our national security. Tell you, it's not the easiest thing to do. And you can understand why. Every congressman, worth his weight in salt, always has some pet project back home that he or she thinks would be a good idea. So I went and worked very hard over the past several years, we went over $5 million in the budget to allow this ACE program to develop and fully mature into something that is the envy of a lot of other places. And a spot within the ACE student body is coveted. You know, you all competed for it, and you were selected. And I kept saying to the people, the wizards over at the Pentagon, why don't you listen to a civilian like me once in a while? And it's sort of a heady atmosphere for me to go in there and see these guys with stars on their shoulder and big titles like Secretary of Defense. Hey, I was specialist 4th class U.S. Army. I didn't get very far. But I keep trying. And finally I convinced Secretary Michael Witt of the Air Force to come up to Rome, New York, to see what I had been talking about. And he brought along with him Dr. Cass, who was just his science advisor are just absolutely brilliant. And they sat here, and they spent half a day here, and they were mesmerized, absolutely mesmerized. One briefing after another from the Air Force Research Lab, from these great, talented people. And I kept nudging the secretary. And I said, see that guy? How old do you think he is? About 32, 33, and we'd go a little bit longer. See that guy? How old do you think he is? Can't be 40 yet. I said, guess what? It's exciting what's happening up in rural New York, and we're able to attract these young people to government service at a time when everybody's competing for their talents and offering bigger bucks in the private sector, but they come here for the challenge. And the day was going beautifully. Don Hanson and his team just absolutely wowed the secretary and Dr. Cass. And then came the presentation on ACE. I sat there almost at attention because I was so proud of what ACE was doing. And after that was over, the secretary said, you know, you've been after me all this time about ACE. You know what? I'm really impressed. It's going to be in future Air Force budgets. That is very significant. It's significant for a whole lot of reasons. One, I'm retiring at the end of this year. Come January, I'm history. There's going to be a new congressman from this area, and that congressman is going to be a freshman. And quite honestly, freshmen in Washington, D.C., it's kind of tough for them to maneuver. They're learning their way around the city and the government. And when they come up to some crusty old chairman of the Appropriations Committee or crusty senior bureaucrat in the Department of Defense and say, here's what I want from my district, I say, wait a minute, son, you're going to learn a little bit more about how the system works. It's going to be tough, but it won't be tough because the Air Force is going to include in the budget requests for funding for the ACE program. And why is that? Because the secretary and his science advisor now know what we have known for a long time. Dr. Kay and Don and all the people at the lab, what a wonderful program this is, and what it does so effectively and efficiently in developing, nurturing the best and the brightest of our young people to go forward and contribute significantly in whatever field they choose, in whatever arena they decide to play, to do something that is going to be meaningful and lasting and beneficial. Because keep in mind, we've always got to keep our eye on the goal. There's no substitute for winning. And I like the idea that we're number one. But I also recognize we're being challenged as never before. A lot of other people would like to be in that lofty position. We're going to maintain that position because we're doing a lot of the right things. Now, I hope some of you have heard, I would hope all of you have heard, but I'm realistic, I know probably all of you haven't, of something called the American Competitiveness Initiative. That's a phrase I want you to remember. It's something I've been working on for a long time during my 6 years as chairman of the Science Committee. And last year I spent a lot of time at the White House trying to convince people that this is an investment that the nation should make. And what was I asking for? I was asking for a significant increase in the budgets for places like the National Science Foundation, which sponsors most of the university-based cutting-edge research going on in America. More funding for the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which works so effectively with industry, particularly the manufacturing sector, which is hemorrhaging before our very eyes. And a doubling of the budget for the Office of Science at the Department of Energy. Why? Because that office is looking for alternative sources of energy at a time when the nation faces the most serious crisis. It's called the energy crisis. And so I kept trying and trying, and I wasn't the only one. But I guess the White House probably said, oh, here's Bull again with the same old song he's singing. He wants us to invest more in science. Why are we not surprised that the chairman of the Science Committee wants greater investment in science? And then he's accompanied by the chairman of the Education Committee who's saying, we've got to invest more money in science and math disciplines starting at the very beginning. Why are we not surprised? The chairman of the Education Committee, like the chairman of the Science Committee, wants more money for their area. Here's what changed the dynamic. The National Academy of Science issued a report mid-year last year. The panel that issued the report was headed by Norm Augustine, the retired chairman of the board and CEO of Lockheed Martin, and Craig Barrett, a founding member, and incidentally a very rich founding member, of a company called Intel. And this report, rising above the gathering storm, sounded the alarms. It said, we are deficient in the science and math disciplines in the education of our young people. We are shamefully falling behind in innovation because we're not investing enough money in the science R&D for various agencies of the federal government. See, you can't depend on the big Fortune 500 companies to invest an awful lot of money in long-term means late payout, research. Those guys sitting on the board, they've got to worry about the next quarterly statement and whether there's going to be an annual dividend. So the government has to do it. And then along comes the State of the Union in January of this year. And I was sitting in that chamber with the biggest smile of anybody in it. All 435 members of the House, all 100 senators, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Supreme Court, the Diplomatic Corps, packed cheek to jowl, all awaiting the words of the President of the United States. And they looked down, why is this guy Bullard smiling? Because earlier that day, Margaret Spelling, the Secretary of Education, called me. So did Sam Bodman, the Secretary of Energy. So did Dr. John Marburger, who is the President's Science Advisor, heads of something called the Office of Science and Technology Policy. So did Dr. Arden Bulent, who's the head of the National Science Foundation. They called to tell me to listen carefully to this message, because the President's going to announce a major new initiative that will make you happy. And I sat in that chamber as the President of the United States announced the American Competitiveness Initiative. Now look, I've been around a long time, and I've heard a lot of states of the Union. And quite frankly, they're almost all the same, whether Republican or Democrat. They wax positive. They talk in eloquent phrases. They tell us how good things are and how we're going to get even better in the future. That's the job of the President of the State of the Union, to make us feel good, to lift us up. But I'm cynical enough, I've been around, to know that a lot of the eloquent words in the State of the Union don't mean much except words on pieces of paper, unless they're followed by meaningful deeds. Lo and behold, this time was different. 3 weeks later, the budget of the United States is submitted to Congress and the American people by the President. And there, in black and white, request for funding to double the budget for the National Science Foundation, double the budget for the Office of Science and the Department of Energy, double the budget for the National Institute of Standards and Technology, put hundreds of millions of dollars more for the science and math portion of the No Child Left Behind education initiative of this President. So we're moving in the right direction. And I can't think of anywhere I would rather be if I could recreate my life and I could be, take some magic potion that would make me young again and position me wherever I would like to go. I'd like to go to Rome, New York, to be sitting with you as a fellow graduate of this ACE program, because your future is just almost guaranteed, dependent only upon your willingness to work and give it your all. But you've got the training, I know you're up to the task. Now, if you turn on television, or you pick up the paper, you'll find out what's wrong in the world. That's what television does, and that's what newspapers do. They report the things that are different, that are controversial. And look at today. If you're over in England, you got a ticket to come back home from a trip abroad, you wonder, should I get on that plane? Is it safe? Can you travel anywhere in the world? We're engaged in a war on terrorism. It reminds me of Woody Allen. Woody Allen is one of my favorite philosophers. Woody Allen once said in an essay, "We have arrived at the crossroads. One road leads to hopelessness and despair, the other to total extinction. Let us pray that we have the wisdom to choose wisely." Now, I'm not going to leave you on that somber note, because I'm confident that we do have the wisdom to choose wisely. Which brings me to another one of my favorite quotes. From the great Irishman, Clancy, you'll be happy about this one. Edmund Burke, who said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream things that never were and ask why not." You, the graduates of the ACE program in Rome in 2006, are our best hope for the future. You ask why not, and then set about to make certain that your dreams come true and that all of us have a better tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your words and your support of the program. And on behalf of ACE Class of 2006, I'd like to present you with this gift as a token of our appreciation.
I'm glad he didn't challenge me to go that 8-mile run.
Congressman, thank you for those kind words about the lab, and most importantly, those thought-provoking thoughts about the future for our country and for our graduates here today. It's now my pleasure to introduce the mayor of Rome, a very energetic man. Every place I go, he's out there trying to make Rome a better place to live and a more enjoyable place. Mayor Jim Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Hanson. Sherry, I'm a retired Air Force veteran. I made it to the rank of E4. I think we're probably equal. I look back, Regina Recco, I think it was 3 years ago, when she came to my office and she started to talk about the ACE program, which I had no idea what she was talking about. And I had the opportunity 3 years ago to go over and address these students as they came in. And this is my third year, and every year I go back there, ladies and gentlemen, students, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the quality, I'm amazed at the dedication, and it just reinforces in my mind that our future, like the Congressman said, is probably going to be in the best hands of anywhere in the world, and I mean that. Just a couple other remarks. I look at Colonel Winters, and you can take all the technical expertise, all your computer programming, and everything that you learn But students, if you don't have the interpersonal skills, if you don't have the leadership skills, if you don't stand up what you believe in, if you don't role model yourselves every day, all the education in the world, you will never benefit, and the people in this country will never benefit. And I want to say, criminal leaders, you are the role model. I talked to a couple students, and the impact that you've made on these students is forever theirs, and that's right from your mouth. I mean that. Dr. J, for you, for us to have you in this community and the impact that you've made on students coming from across the country and leaving here, and the impact that they'll remember on our city, Rome, New York, you can't put a dollar value on it. And maybe someday some of these students will come back here and maybe have a career and make a home in the Mohawk Valley, where the opportunities hopefully will be here for them. And Dr. J, on behalf of myself and the city, we appreciate everything that you've done and the impact you've made. Sherry, I've been in this political arena for 3 years. I came up of the business environment into a situation where we wanted to focus on our community as a team. We wanted to make an impact as a team. And you, Mr. Bowler, are a key to the team in the progression in this region. And we wouldn't have an Air Force Research Laboratory, we wouldn't have DFAS, and we wouldn't have that base if it wasn't for your hard work and dedication and caring for this community. And lastly, to all the graduates. Peter said, Mayor, thank you for your hospitality and for welcoming us here. And Peter, I want to tell you this. We as a community are very, very fortunate to have each and every one of you come in here and get an education and go out and make an impact to the future of this country and the world. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
We would also like to give you this gift as well as a token of our appreciation. Thank you very much, sir.
It's now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening. He's got quite a title. Colonel on the front, PhD on the end. There's not a whole lot of those in the U.S. Army or the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. Marines or the U.S. Navy. We're very pleased to have him with us tonight. He is a great supporter of the ACE program. He helped develop the fundamental curriculum. He taught for the first 2 years, as I understand it, in the ACE course. Most recently, he's had a little bit more pressing things. He was deployed to Iraq, where he was the vice commander of Camp Victory. Very pleased to have you home, sir, in a healthy state, and I'm very pleased to introduce you as our keynote speaker tonight, Colonel Ragsdale.
Can't thank you enough for that kind introduction. I can't tell you what a great honor it is for me to be here today among all of you, particularly the graduates, and what you've done over the course of the last 10 weeks. It's incredibly impressive. I'd like to first acknowledge our distinguished guests, Councilman Buller, Mayor Brown, Dr. Hanson, Dr. Bay, Dr. DeBoer. Now, I've just got through what is, for me, always the most difficult part. For some reason, I'm always stumble over the names. So we've now got that behind us. I'm going to now relax and I'll give you my remarks. First of all, the two speakers have certainly set the stage. They certainly articulated to you some very important things that we all need to take into account. And that is that this program here is the kind of program that our country absolutely depends upon. Absolutely depends upon. If we look at the things that have provided this country with some sort of a competitive advantage, it more often than not comes back to our ability to innovate and our ability to outthink those that we may compete with, whether we're competing with them in an economic sense, whether we're competing them in a political sense, in an ideological sense, or even in a military sense. It is that innovation that all of you are working to develop, but also to protect. Friedman's book, The World is Flat, helps us understand the issues better. And clearly, the reason that the world is flat, Friedman tells us, is because we are interconnected. The margins between us and our competitors are much smaller. A big reason for our ability to lead has been our ability to innovate with information technologies. And we now depend on them in such a dramatic way across all spectrums of our culture. We have got to protect our information systems and the information they contain. We've got to continue to innovate. If for some reason we have adversaries that are able to take that advantage from us, then in my mind, we will lose that competitive advantage. And all of us are very familiar with what's going on in the world today. The threat in the Middle East is very real, it's very pressing, and there's a potential for some very dire consequences. We know about the foiled terrorist plot that took place today. But in my opinion, having even seen what I've seen in the past year, the greatest threat to our national security is if they take away our ability to lead through innovation, and they'll do that in the most direct way by exploiting and taking away the advantage our information technologies provide for us. This is not about people being able to just get books from Amazon. It's not just about that. It is far more than that. Our information systems, our information technologies have made us much more efficient. They've made us much more effective. And if people begin to distrust the information they're going to get out of these information systems, we're going to lose that advantage. And they'll begin to distrust that information if our adversaries are able to be more successful. And quite honestly, I believe that in some respects we're losing ground. Despite all our best efforts, the challenges become greater and greater as time goes along. New technologies are developed. Something as simple as a thumb drive where you can put gigabytes of data. Seems like a great tool for convenience, and it has made us more efficient, made us more effective. But it has brought along with it a whole host of security threats. I can tell you because I lived this, we had classified data that left our base on thumb drives because we weren't out thinking. Back to the congressman's words, we weren't out thinking a very determined adversary. Our ability to innovate is very much tied to our information systems and what you've been learning about over the past 10 weeks. As for many of you planted a seed, and here's my words to you today. I have, much like the congressman, I have prepared remarks. They were notes. As a matter of fact, at breakfast this morning, I was supposed to tell you this, so we'll rewind back to that just for a second. Sitting across the table at breakfast this morning, and I turned to my 15-year-old son, and you know, we're their heroes when they're 15, right? I said, so son, you know, I'm going to give a keynote speech tonight. Kind of like the defensive speech. And I'm looking for like. He said, Dad, tell me that you're going to use prepared remarks. Please, and promise me. Come on, look me in the eyes now, Dad. Promise me. And I said, no, I got little notes here on the card. He said, let me see those. And he grabs it from his note. He says, no, this will never do. This will never do because, you know, I do have a problem. You know, I actually am in a 12-step program. Trying to get control of I'm talking and can't shut up problem. So he knows that well, and he knows that, you know, and I said, you know, I'm talking prepared remarks. It just doesn't feel right. It's just, you don't go with prepared remarks. You need to warn the people they need to bring sleeping bags. So, what I've done for all of you, public service, I have a watch that started here. Started, you know, we got 13 minutes into this, and it's going to go off in 7 minutes. It's going to go off in 7 minutes, and then I will, you know, I'll quickly wrap up. Please. I'll do the best I can. So, no, I do have to tell you this, because there's so many Air Forces. First of all, this truly feels like a homecoming. It truly does. I love ACE, and I've had the opportunity to travel a lot, speak a lot, do a lot of different things, and I have, not for just 2 years, but 3 years at ACE. 3 years at ACE was looking for 2. I was here for 3. For 3, it was 3. All 3 years, and I've always loved ACE, and over time, ACE has become so much better. Not just the technical part about it, which is the thing that often will get me excited and enthused, but if you look at the leadership component, this is unprecedented. Nothing exists like this out there. And I don't mean across the country, I'm talking across the world. Nothing like ACE exists. I come from West Point, and we like to believe that we're a great leadership laboratory, but I will tell you, we don't have our cadets out in the middle of academics for doing 8-mile runs. It doesn't happen. And that is a tremendous credit to you. The fact that this very formal, specific leader component of the ACE is why I come back. I was very disappointed that I was unavailable to participate, not as a keynote speaker, because you'll forget about this very soon after I get done talking. But it was nice to see some folks that I had got to spend all day with, and they actually did remember, you know, at least remember me. I don't know what they remember anything I talked about. So I'm so impressed. I'll come back every year. I'm thrilled to hear that they can continue to fund the program. This is great stuff. Now here's the challenge. You are the best and brightest, and you have learned a tremendous amount. Look, what you have to do this for me. You've all got a promise. Oh, look right hand. You have got knowledge and leader skills that you developed here that you have to go out, continue to grow, continue to develop, continue to learn, because our country depends on it. Our country depends on you. You've been given a great gift here, and you've worked hard. You've earned the fact that you're graduated from one of the most prestigious workshops of its kind in the world. But now you need to redouble your efforts. Take the knowledge you've learned. Learn as much as you can, because we can no longer respond to threats. Merely responding to threats is a no-win solution. Is the fear, uncertainty, and doom that is talked about. It's going to happen unless we commit ourselves to anticipating the threat, to getting out ahead of that threat, to thinking as some of our enemies, our adversaries, might think, and use that as a way to anticipate and get out in front of it. Now, all of you are going to be leaders. And I'm thrilled by the diversity that we're seeing here in the mix. I'll tell you a quick story about my father, who was 30 years Air Force.
He's 30 years Air Force. He was 30 years, retired colonel. I was an Air Force brat, proudly serving. When he was a young lieutenant, and this kind of gets at this innovation piece of this. He was a young lieutenant. He was went to navigator school. Came to his first B-29, started the war. Part of that greatest generation. He's a little nervous, he has a little navigator briefcase, and he gets on a plane. Across the old captain. Oh, yeah. Sir, I'm the navigator. He said, well, reaches in his bag, slams down 38. Lord, what is that for? He says, that's for navigators who get me lost. So, being quick on his feet and innovative, he reaches into his bag, grabs a 45 and slams it down on the bag. The pilot's taking it back. He says, what's that for? He says, I'm going to know we're lost before you do. That's the Air Force working it. So he wasn't Air Force at the time. He was Army Air Corps, so long before he was predated. Okay, so I would tell you a story about my mom, but I'm going to run out of time. It's equally funny. So I actually do want to emphasize a couple things. I'm looking at my cards here now. Hey, did you hear today there was yet another talking about the kind of things we need to think about? Sometimes we think of very sophisticated attacks, but then we have things like today in Florida. Yet another laptop with 33,000 private records. This was a DMV kind of thing, so it was license applications. All this private data was lost on a laptop. So now there's another, nationwide search for a laptop, just like we had just very recently. So you can see what's happening. The technologies are helping us do what we do better, but with each and every one of them, it introduces more complexity. This greater complexity makes it harder to maintain, but it also makes it harder to protect. All the more reason, back to the theme being that you've got to take the knowledge you've got now, the kernel of knowledge you've got now, continue to build on that, continue to grow, and be able to be in a position where you as leaders can anticipate the threats. And you as leaders, and this is really the most important thing I'm going to take away from the other remarks, and that is, it's not just you. It's not just you individually securing the information systems that are under your direct control, but you're going to have people, men and women, those sons and daughters of American parents that are going to be serving with you. And it's your responsibility to make sure they understand the threats, to make sure they're working with you to anticipate the threats that exist against our information systems. The opening ceremony, I wasn't aware that we were going to do this. It's a very moving ceremony, and I was going to end with, just challenging you to continue to learn and grow. I do want to bring out what one of the other speakers brought out, and that is looking at the leadership component of this course. There's a human element, there's a human dimension to what you're going to do. And I encourage you to never forget that you're going to be leading young men and women who are going to look to you, whether it be in the service, whether you're serving our government in a civilian capacity, whether you're serving in the private sector. You're all going to be leaders. You're going to have young men and women that are going to look to you. So while it's important you understand the X's and the O's, the bits and the bytes, don't neglect that human component. Don't, because those young men and women are going to look to you. They're going to look to you to be competent, they're going to look for you to be capable, and they're going to look for you to lead them. There's one additional point that I wanted to bring out to this group, because you have an awesome responsibility that it is at times overlooked. And that is, when we talk about protecting information, at times that information we know, much like the data records that were lost in Florida today, there's a privacy component to it. It's one of our fundamental rights, our right to privacy. The challenge for those of us, and it's somewhat ironic actually, the challenge for all of us that are involved in protecting that information is we have the keys to the kingdom, don't we? With our currently deployed technologies, system administrators, network administrators, security officers can see all. They're the all-knowing, all-seeing. And we do this so we can protect our systems. We're going to look at every packet going by. We're going to look for malicious activity. The challenge, and it's often overlooked because we think of the technical aspect of this, is to, much like the Hippocratic Oath. Who knows what Hippocratic Oath? Right here. I'm sorry? No, the Hippocratic Oath itself. What are the words?
First do no harm.
First do no harm. Which I thought that's what it was. As it turns out, it's a big, long thing, and it doesn't have that in there at all. What is wrong with this? This, I've been saying this my whole life because, it's a Hippocratic Oath. So apparently he did say it. But it was in something other than oath. Oath is a big, long thing. He said something like, as a matter of fact, he said, as to diseases, make a habit of two things: to help, or at least to do no harm. So that's very close to it, but that was in epidemics. I'm not making this up here. Now, it's funny, there was other practical advice in there too. See, this you learn when you get, Google knows all. It also said, do not test the strength of corrosive liquids by pouring them on your hands. Okay, hey, another one, who knew? He was, forward thinking, this guy. Always put one's socks on before one's shoes. Good advice. Okay, now who's also heard? See, this is prevalent. This is really prevalent. This how about only the dead have seen the end of war? That's a great quote. And it's attributed to who saw Black Hawk Down. Who saw it? It's the beginning of the movie, right? Who did they attribute it to? Plato. Didn't say it. It was somebody else entirely. All of these things we hold dear, didn't say. All right. How about this one? One of my favorite quotes. This is actually, truth be told, my absolute favorite quote. Of course, I should have a bit of a memory. One would think. One would think. Okay. The nation that makes a great distinction between its scholars and its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. Okay. Now, that was considered one would think, but not. Matter of fact, MacArthur gave a famous speech at West Point where he attributed this to, that's not even true. The other quote, we'll go back to that. Bottom line is, somehow we got on this theme of misquotation, and there was a point of some kind in here. We certainly have gone far afield at this point. We got 2 minutes over. Okay. This has been a tremendous honor for me. It really, truly has. I appreciate you indulging my somewhat offbeat sense of humor at times. And I want you to know how much I respect the commitment you've made. I want you to know how much I respect the fact that for many of you that are wearing a uniform, you decided to put that uniform on at a time when our nation was already at war. And that the likelihood that you would serve in the military and have to deploy and serve to protect our nation was in your mind when you made that decision. I can tell you that wasn't true for me or my generation. We came into a world that was, although we had the Cold War, there was little expectation that we would have to find ourselves in harm's way. Many of you in uniform could find yourself there. Those of you that are in the civilian sector could well find yourselves being deployed in support of our nation's objectives. So, my hat is off to you. You have my respect and admiration. I encourage you, in just closing here, please, 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 take what you've learned here. Be lifelong learners. Develop yourself as leaders, because ultimately, the very national defense of our country depends on it. Thank you very much.
Present you with a gift on behalf of the East Class of 2006.
Then Mary asked, "Speak to us of passion." And he said, "Passion is to success what leaven is to bread. For even if hard work and study can lead to success, just as water and wheat combine into dough, success without passion tastes as flat as a loaf of unleavened bread. A leader without passion is a mere manager. It takes passion to lead followers into greatness. For isn't the duty of a leader to inspire future leaders? And doesn't his passion move them beyond their fears? An athlete who competes without passion is destined to failure. Since sweat alone does not make a champion, it is the passion to excel and the hunger to win that separate a winner from a loser. For it was passion that led the ace from dream into reality. The passion of a congressman who saw the future with clarity and empowered the vision. Passion that took an old crow out of retirement to help shape a bunch of nerds into officers. Passion that led a pilot to the battlefields of Gettysburg to inspire ageless leadership. Passion by which engineers conceived of lessons and taught by action. It was passion that moved women to open their hearts and homes to the ACE students. Passion that moved mentors to share their life experiences. Passion of young officers who embraced the cadets and showed them the blue yonder. Passion that brought back ACE alumni to create a community of peers. It was passion that drove a new bride 2,000 miles from her groom that she may give back to the ACE. Passion that molded 40 men and women into the hopes of a nation. Passion that motivated stragglers on Friday morning to complete the 8-mile runs in sunshine or in rain. 10 weeks ago, I saw doubt and anxiety in your eyes. I saw tension and apprehension. You had traveled far, away from the safety of familiar surroundings, to the uncertainty of the challenge. Yet it was passion that kept you awake through grueling lectures and enabled you to solve demanding problems. Tonight, I see confidence and faith. I see officers anxious to serve. I see men and women eager to lead. I see silent warriors ready to fight. So without further emotion, I ask the class of 2006 to rise. I am proud to certify that you have completed the requirements of the Advanced Force and Engineering Cybersecurity Bootcamp. You have demonstrated an ability to formulate clear problem statements, make reasonable assumptions, apply sound techniques and tools, solve each problem to a certain depth, perform risk analysis, and deliver your solutions on time without using apostrophes or passive voice. In witness thereof, we will award each of you a certificate. At this time, I invite the students to gather in the back, and I invite Congressman Bollert and Dr. Hansen to join me in congratulating the graduates. Matthew Alberti. Manuel Banales. Justin Randall. Jonathan Bristol. Anthony DiSardo. Peter Bryce Ekman. Megan Hens. Leon Fraser. Kevin Paul. Jason Hunter. Mark Shapour. Brian Kelly. 16. Alex Cross. Derek Lahus. David Mann. Joshua Marks. Douglas Medley. Nicholas Myers. Brandon Phillips. Christy Pavlovich. Samuel Punky. Patrick Beacon. Alan Rhodes. Andrew Britton. Freddie Rodriguez. Rochelle Bose. Huxley Seidman. Ryan Stewart. Ryan Webb. Douglas Wilson. Brian York. Frederick Young. Graduates, go forth and lead with passion.
knocking the door. Well, everybody's in there. Jim, can I get you a little bit? Well, everybody's finding this. It's just a moment to fill the gap here. Just stand there just for a moment. Jim, I need a picture. I need a picture of Dr. J's footwear. I've never seen that. No. We'll be called
At this time, the 8th class of 2006 would like to present a slideshow prepared by cadets Rochelle Rose and Curtis Medvey, outlining our activities and experiences this summer.
The creator of Dark of Days, Peter Train,
How do you rate a paper and that is what it is? That is what Yeah, this song is dedicated to every kid who ever got picked last in gym class. This is for you. To every kid who never had a date to the This is for you. Here we They still like the time that girl broke up with me 'cause I wasn't cool enough. I'm sober now, 3 whole months is an accomplishment that helped me with it. My mind always tore us apart is the one thing I won't touch again. In my sick way, I want to thank you for holding my head up late that night. While I was busy waging wars on myself, you were trying to stop the fight. You never doubted my warped opinions on things like suicidal and hate. You made me compliment myself when it was way too hard to take. So I'll try now close your mind and do whatever it takes in your heart to leave me behind.
You didn't go
Just what? Come to Ace.
That's my. Fucking do this,
At this time, I'd like to invite Major David Bennickhouse forward to make a special presentation.
One of the things that's been really spectacular about working with this program is that it is so much more than just an advanced course in engineering. You get to deal with teaching these young people leadership skills and officership skills. And you know, the Greeks, when they were looking at how to train their young men, they knew that one of the things that was important was to train the head, to impart knowledge. But far more than that, so often there's a real tension between doing the things that we know we need to do and doing the things that we want to do. And so for the Greeks, they said, the head is where the source of knowledge is, the stomach is the source of the appetite, and the challenge is, how do you get the head, which knows what you should do, to control the stomach, which knows the things you want to do? And they said, the way to do that, the head can only control the stomach through the heart. And what they meant by that was that in order to develop a successful leader, you had to develop those characteristics, those qualities that are a little bit less tangible, but make all the difference in developing and molding a young leader. Those qualities like dedication, self-discipline, courage, honor. The reason I bring this up is I'm here to announce the distinguished graduates from the ACE class, the top 10%. And these young men and women, in order to get that top 10%, in order to make it into the distinguished graduates, had to do a heck of a lot more than just memorize a whole bunch of facts and regurgitate it. They needed to be able to show heart, because that was what would ultimately get you through this long program. You had to put on an average of 70 hours a week. Their grade was not only based on the quality of the work they did, but also how they did in the Hack Fest, how they did the 8-mile run. And these four young men have excelled and deserve honor because of how well they have done. Before, I'd ask you to stand, please, and then we'll honor them. Mark Jabor, Aaron Rhodes, Huxley Seidman, and Ryan Kelly.
Cadet Nicholas Myers could please come forward. We would like to present Dr. Jabor with a token of our appreciation from the ACE class of 2006.
It's one thing that Dr. J, one word that I probably remember the most from this cybercraft. And we got him a plaque just thanking him for everything this summer. And we found a picture of an F-22, and what we did was we kind of put it in ASCII characters. So it was a momentous kind of thing that we thought of to bring the kinetic war fight into the binary world. So it was kind of a combination of two, because they are kind of joint nowadays. And soon enough, from what I hear, even fighter pilots have the risk of ones and zeros coming at them. So, Dr. J, this is a plaque to you from us, and it says, "A plaque of appreciation for the continued development of new leadership for the Cyber Warriors." Of course, my other strong man is Regina Recco. We also got a token of our gratitude, because a bunch of hungry ACE students would have been very disgruntled at any hackfest/class, and this is our way of thanking you for never sleeping, even in current conditions. And it's just a plaque from us, just thanking her for her dedication and excellence towards this program. She literally has gone above and beyond for us, and we're kind of her kids. And I think a lot of us will probably say that forever now, because her house is always open to all of us. So. Ms. Sosa is an LSU fan, and we won't hold that against her. But her and Lieutenant Viola hosted a gumbo dinner for us, and it was very tasty. And not only did we get an Auburn Tiger shirt, because she loves wearing it, but we got her and Lieutenant Viola a New Orleans cookbook for maybe future A students to expand from gumbo to other things of that sort. So, thank you.
If the graduate assistants could please come forward, they would like to make a special presentation as well.
We have Dr. Jay, Regina, and Cynthia just come forward. We left the cooler back in the dorm. Kind of go for round two, but we have we have a presentation given to the leadership of the program for helping us make this successful year. And I don't know if you caught the card or not, but in the run, in the slideshow, we dressed up for the last run. I wore a button-down shirt and toga. These guys wore cheetah suits, and Melanie wore a dress. And so what we did is we framed it and signed it and stuff. But he was explaining kind of the symbolism behind this. You know, this has been this summer, a complicated experience. Put a lot of work in, just like an 8-mile run. It's a lot of work, but this year we've helped our these individuals up here. We made it fun at the same time. Hard work and fun together. I think it's what makes it successful.
Finally, it is my sincere pleasure to invite Officer Candidate Christopher Oplenoff to the podium. Our class has selected him as our valedictorian to represent us and to close the ceremony this evening.
I sat there after they told me I had been selected for this, and I was like, okay, what am I going to say? So I spent about the last week or so trying to figure out what I wanted to say. Last couple days, been writing like crazy trying to figure out what I wanted to say. When I was reading over it today, I realized there was no apostrophes, there was no passive voice, the entire thing was written in the ACE writing style. If you don't understand what the ACE writing style is yet, let me explain. Basically, take the English language that you know, throw away all the useful stuff, and now you have to write a 20 or 30 page paper with what's left. That's what we had the privilege of using this summer. But in all honesty, what we do is we remove the extraneous stuff and actually make it very clear and concise. But I decided instead of reading from something which I've never done before, I never talk to people from paper, so I figured I'll just talk. We've had a great summer. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a fantastic program. Congressman Bullard, thank you for coming and for being such a strong supporter of the program. It's very nice to have friends that can help a program like this out. You've basically heard what we've done this summer. We've had a lot of fun. We've done a whole lot of running, a whole lot of writing. So what I thought I'd talk about instead was something that I thought about when we were at West Point. I am not a person who is ever impressed by architecture. I'll look at something and I'm like, hey, that's a neat building or whatever. But walking through West Point is absolutely amazing. You look at the buildings that are there and you can't help but be in awe of what was built. And I was trying to figure out why was it that I was so impressed with what was built there, and I realized it was because of the massive undertaking that they are to build. These are huge stone buildings, very ornate buildings that take time, they take effort, they take skill. And I thought, what a great parallel to what we're doing. Because that guy who's laying the bricks, he may not understand what that ultimate result is going to be. He does his job, he does it well. But there's somebody who is sitting back, they're looking at it, and they're going, you know what, I know what this is going to be. And Dr. DeBoer, that's you, sir. You understand where this is going. I was at what I don't want you guys to do is go home and not appreciate what we're here. We're here doing a job that maybe we don't see the grand picture, but I truly believe that down the road when we look back at what's been built, we'll be very proud to see that we were part of it. So, this was actually going to be a longer speech, but now it's not. So, you know what, I think I'll close right there. I might be one of 2 sailors in this room, but I wish you all fair winds and following seas, and I dismissed the Ace Class 2006.